Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Okay, today we are diving into what is arguably the most legendary 240 seconds in the entire history of sports. 4 minutes of madness. Maradona's two sides, Mexico 1986. You know, in the sports world, we rarely get these perfectly distilled narratives. Usually, a career takes years and years to define, right? A player's legacy is built slowly over hundreds of matches. But every once in a while, history just hits the fast-forward button.
Oh, absolutely. It accelerates. Today, we're exploring the ultimate encapsulation of soccer's greatest villain and ultimate genius. And honestly, the wildest part about this whole thing is that both of these extreme identities were forged back to back, literally just minutes apart. I mean, it's a story that sounds like some heavily dramatized Hollywood script, but it happened in real life, with the entire world watching on the edge of their seats.
Right, and it forces us to ask this completely mind-boggling question. How exactly do you become both a villain and a genius in just 240 seconds? It's a concept that totally defies logic. To be universally despised for your cunning deceit and then, practically in the exact same breath, universally worshipped for your untouchable athletic perfection.
It is the ultimate paradox. And look, before we break down the sheer madness of those 4 minutes to show you exactly how Diego Maradona pulled this off, take a quick second to hit that subscribe button to our channel right now. You definitely won't want to miss our future explainers. All right, let's step back in time and set the scene.
So, the crucial point to understand before we even look at the goals is the setting itself. We're transporting you back to June 22nd, 1986. The stage is the massive Estadio Azteca in Mexico City. Just imagine the atmosphere for a second. There are over 114,000 screaming fans packed into this colossal arena. The midday Mexican sun is absolutely sweltering, the high altitude is literally making the players' lungs burn, and it's a World Cup quarterfinal matchup between Argentina and England. The stakes in international soccer literally do not get any higher than this. Winner moves one step closer to global glory, loser goes home empty-handed. But, to really grasp the gravity of this specific match, we have to look outside the stadium entirely. The historical backdrop here is the Falklands War. Just 4 years prior to this game, in 1982, the United Kingdom and Argentina engaged in a really harsh 74-day military conflict over the Falkland Islands. Hundreds of lives were lost, and it left this deep, lingering national trauma and intense resentment on both sides. So going into this quarterfinal, there was just massive geopolitical tension. This wasn't just a game of soccer anymore. For millions of people watching around the globe, it was a profound matter of national pride. The pitch basically became a surrogate battlefield. Absolutely. And you could feel that heavy, anxious energy right from the opening whistle. The first half of the match was incredibly tight, super physical, and it ended in this tense 0-0 deadlock. Both teams were essentially just neutralizing each other. But as we move into the second half, the timeline completely explodes. Notice how closely clustered these next two moments are on the timeline. The first goal strikes at minute 51, and then the second goal hits at minute 55. That rapid-fire 4-minute window, that is where the entire history of soccer was rewritten forever.
Okay, so we hit minute 51. The tension inside that massive stadium is palpable. The players are exhausted, they are physically drained by the heat and that immense psychological pressure. The fans are literally on the edge of their seats, just waiting for a single mistake to break the deadlock. And then, an English midfielder attempts a defensive clearance, but he totally miskicks it. The ball suddenly slices backwards, looping high up into the penalty area, and Diego Maradona is about to execute a move that fans and pundits are literally still furiously arguing about today.
Yeah, this brings us to the infamous hand of God. Let's break down exactly what happened up in the air. So the ball is dropping down toward the penalty spot. England's legendary goalkeeper, Peter Shilton, comes rushing out of his net to punch it clear. Now keep in mind, Peter Shilton is 6'1". Diego Maradona is generously listed at 5'5". Okay, so that is an 8-inch height difference, plus Shilton has the obvious advantage of using his hands legally. Maradona jumps with him, knowing full well there is no way he wins a fair header. So in a split second of sheer audacity, he raises his left fist right up near his head and sneakily punches the ball over the keeper and directly into the back of the net. I mean, the action itself is a completely egregious violation of the rules. It's a blatant, illegal handball that should have resulted in an immediate penalty against Argentina.
Right. Yet the true mastery, or, villainy, depending on who you ask, was in the deception. Maradona disguised the punch so beautifully. He whipped his head as if he had actually made contact with his forehead, and he kept his arm perfectly obscured by Shilton's body. The referee, Ali bin Nasser from Tunisia, was trailing the play and completely blocked from seeing the infringement. He just didn't have the angle. So he pointed straight to the center circle. The goal stood.
It was an act of sheer, street-smart cunning. The English players obviously saw it clearly and were absolutely enraged, just swarming the referee. But Maradona, he was already celebrating by the corner flag, successfully selling the greatest lie in sports history.
So the world is just reeling. The English team is furious, feeling utterly robbed on the biggest stage imaginable. The stadium is buzzing with absolute confusion, and the TV commentators are scrambling to watch the replays just to figure out what actually happened. The psychological state of the English players is completely fractured. And then, fast forward, minute 55. It has barely been 240 seconds since the controversial punch. The dust hasn't even begun to settle. The outrage is literally still fresh in the air. And what happens next is pure, unadulterated sporting magic. Maradona receives the ball deep in his own half, literally facing his own goal. He does this quick pirouette to escape two defenders, and then he just takes off. He starts a blistering 60-meter dash down the right flank and proceeds to weave past 5 different English outfield players. And we're talking world-class defenders here, desperately trying to hack him down, pulling at his shirt, diving in for tackles, but he is just gliding over the grass, perfectly balanced, with the ball seemingly super glued to his left foot. Finally, Peter Shilton comes rushing out again, but this time Maradona drops a subtle feint, effortlessly rounds the goalkeeper, and taps it into the empty net for what is universally known today as the goal of the century. It is just breathtaking to think about. He took the ball from 60 meters out and dismantled an entire national team entirely on his own. He went from the most controversial, sneaky play imaginable to an undisputed, undeniable display of pure, untouchable sporting genius. Exactly. It's the ultimate paradox of a sports legend. In minute 51, you get the villain, cemented by deceit, rule-breaking, and the infamous hand of God. It was the ultimate display of what Argentines call potrero, that street-smart, win-at-all-cost mentality of the neighborhood slums. And then, a mere 4 minutes later, in minute 55, you get the genius, immortalized by unparalleled grace, balance, and athletic perfection. To display both of those absolute extremes, back-to-back, under the immense pressure of that geopolitical backdrop we talked about, is just staggering. It perfectly encapsulates why Maradona was such a mesmerizing and deeply polarizing figure. It really makes you wonder how we evaluate our sports legends when they show us such drastic extremes. Like, can you separate the art from the deception when both were required to win the ultimate prize?
That is the question, isn't it? It leaves us with one final fascinating thought to ponder. Is Maradona's legacy defined more by his cunning or his athletic brilliance? The incredible thing is, you simply can't tell the full story of one without the other. They are forever intertwined in those 4 blistering minutes in Mexico.